Welcome, everybody, to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Moore. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I just got here from the Matt Rule press conference. I haven't been able to follow along with a lot of the comments. I'm assuming everyone's really excited about this exciting win over one of the historical blue bloods of the sport. Have I read the room correctly? Bowl eligibility as well. I mean, I got to tell you, the folks in the other tower of this stadium would be very happy if they got bowl eligible.
What I'll say is this: the anger that you had, the viewers and the listeners that you had throughout this game, and then you have this. I know you were happy when Jordan Hancock came down with the interception. So remember that brief moment of joy, of happiness, and then of course immediately after. Not immediately, maybe 6 seconds after that, you're angry again. I understand all of that, but also recognize the fact that you were happy for a moment. So you understand that this is actually a good thing that they won and that it's much better than they lost. Now, I will also say you can't do this next week.
No, I would strongly recommend they not do this next week. In fact, this is a game where I'm going to say Georgia 13, Kentucky 12, and everyone's going to lose their mind because that's different, because that's Georgia and they've won national championships. You do have these games. And if you go through most national championship teams, they have games like this. Ohio State had a loss at Oregon. That was not a bad game. That was not a bad performance. This was a bad performance, but it was a win. You got to win your clunkers. They won their clunkers. That's good. There are some significant problems with this team, and I don't know if these are problems that are going to be solvable in the next 6 days and 18 hours or so before they have to get out on the field at Beaver Stadium and start warming up for that game. We talked about the fact that, the player on the team that they really couldn't afford to lose more than anyone else was Josh Simmons. Well, now you lost Josh Simmons for the season. And also Zen Michalski went down, and there has not been an official prognosis on Zen Michalski, but when you get to ride off on the cart after the game, that suggests to me probably not day-to-day. So
yeah,
that's going to be an issue.
I was on the sideline there when he was walking right towards us. I was in between him and like the medical tent in the cart, and just – you could hear the strain and like the pain. Every time he would step, you would hear he would vocalize how much pain he was in with one of his legs there. So that does not look like a quick fix. And so I'm going to assume Donovan Jackson will stay there. And we can get into that aspect of it where pretty early on, you could tell Zen Michalski was having issues and he was getting beaten. And so I think they probably assumed there would be some of that early, but just let him settle in and let him get his feet under him, and then you just get through it. And so one question I wanted to ask Friday, but I got shut down before it all finished, was how much did Donovan Jackson work in practice at left tackle over these past 2 weeks? And I know you talked about rolling them through. Everybody gets work, but how much specifically did he get? Was it 4 snaps on Wednesday and 2 snaps on Tuesday? Because now it's going to be, if they choose to go this way, and I don't know how you can't unless you go Austin Searveld. But then the other thing is, we've talked about before, the 5 best. They want the 5 best linemen to play. So Josh Simmons goes down, and do they go with their 5 best? No, they go with Zen Michalski. Zen Michalski goes down. Do they go with their 5 best, meaning Austin Searveld? No. They go with Luke Montgomery, and so it's not 5 best. You're just looking for the best person at that spot to make everything else as seamless as possible without changing things. But now now it's going to be, if they do go with Donovan Jackson, is it going to be Austin Searveld at left guard? Is it going to be Luke Montgomery?
Well, I think we probably have seen that it was going to be Luke Montgomery, because you saw at Oregon that was sort of the initial idea, was Luke Montgomery went out there with Donovan Jackson. And so now we've seen it twice, and the answer has not been Austin Searveld in either case. So Austin Searveld is, to me, probably he's at right guard. We saw him in there a little bit against. They mixed him in with Edgar Shabola again at right guard. It does not seem like that is plan B. Maybe that's plan C, but I guess they're down to plan C. So I guess that's plan D. I mean, it feels like, okay, we have seen the answer. I would love to know not only how much did Donovan Jackson work there in the last week, how much did Donovan Jackson work there over the summer? Because we talked about that as something that they were probably looking at times. And I think we saw them maybe run that out there a little bit, maybe during the fall camp, or at least we heard about it a little bit during fall camp. But again, was that for 4 periods during one practice, or was that something where you saw him get a week or 2 of work? And so you've sort of seen it, and then now you're going to just be seeing it a lot more. An important update, hashtag B1G. Want to guess how many points Iowa has? No cheating.
Is it 0?
It's 5. Even more Iowa number than 0.
It is. Okay. That is tremendous. I'm just looking through the comments, and somebody said something about Quinshon Judkins telling it like it is or something. He doesn't hold back. I don't know. Not sure what he was talking about, looking on Twitter to see if there's anything, something that we needed to talk about. But 2 games in a row now for Judkins where he's averaging like 2 yards a carry, and that is a concern. 10 for 29 in this one. So they need to fix that and get that going. 64 yards rushing against a good run defense team, but you should be able to do better than 64 yards. And really, they didn't really even get going until they ran Will Howard a little bit. That's not even going. That's just relative to the way they weren't going earlier on.
Yeah, the offense in the second half, I mean, I know there were people who were very concerned about the defense, and the defense did a lot of the stuff that the people who've been yelling the loudest have been yelling for them to do. And it worked sometimes and it didn't work sometimes. And I think it's a good example of, hey, it's probably not quite as simple as you think. Just like you can't just say, well, blitz more. Okay, well, that sometimes works. And then sometimes you get hit for big plays. I mean, we talked on the pregame show a bunch about how Dylan Raiola never runs the ball, and Dylan Raiola had negative 80 yards rushing or something on the year. And then Dylan Raiola rushed for 31 yards with a long of 38, 9 carries, 31 yards. He had the long rush of the day for either team, like double what anyone else had.
And he had 42 or 43 yards. I think he had 43 yards rushing or 42 yards rushing at the half, and 42 or 43 passing at the half. And those scrambles, because he was getting chased out of the pocket. So that's a positive for the defense, and that they flushed him out. But then the negative is that there was nobody there to clean him up. So he did a good job. Whereas I think in the past, certainly last week, instead of scrambling, he's looking to throw it and throwing it to the wrong team. And of course, he didn't do that until the end of the game in this one, which wasn't a huge surprise given the pressure that he was under. That a throw goes a little high and ends up intercepted by Jordan Hancock.
Did Judkins get brought out for the?
Yes.
He did get brought out. Okay.
Yeah, because he had the game-winning touchdown catch.
He did, yes. Wingman Ted says Judkins said the O-line didn't play well and that it affected the run game. I would be interested in hear the exact quote there, because that's generally not the way that.
And in so many words, that may be that may be the message, but
that's generally something you're sort of reading between the lines more than anything
I will say, in terms of the overall offense, Ohio State had 47 total plays on offense, which is, and 3 of those were kneel downs. Just the 3rd time in the last decade they've had under 50 plays in a game. One was the 2021 Minnesota game, and the other was the 2015 Michigan State game. So not not a ton of plays. And so I think they had 33 at the end of the 3rd quarter or so. Like there was just no plays, and yet they had like 12 possessions. Although the last one being the kneel down, they had plenty of possessions. Yeah, as Will Howard said, it's just they couldn't get that first down, which they did on the game-winning drive. It's like once we got that, then as you guys saw, then we could get momentum. They just couldn't ever get that first down.
Well, and what's interesting to me, and I am going to preface this with the fact that I have, once again, a terrible view of the game. So I may have a different view of things when I actually get to go back and watch the TV copy. But just looking at the stats, the post-game stats, they ran the ball 31 times, and they averaged 2.1 yards per rush. They threw the ball 16 times and had 221 yards through the air. We talk all the time about Ryan Day getting too pass happy. Were they too run happy? It felt like there was just, the run was not really there at any point during the game. And I know there were several times that I looked and it felt like Zen Mahalski was not having a great day. But I don't, the rest of the offensive line was the lack of run based on the fact that the offensive line was just not having a good day. And if so, did they need to just, hey, we want to run the ball. That's the yada yada yada. Sometimes you got to win the game, and if you're throwing it 16 times for 221 yards and running it 31 times for 64, I mean, I don't even need to do the actual math there. It seems like it's if your average yards per completion is 17 and your average yards per rush is 2. I mean, that is suggestive to me that you should, consider rebalancing your play calling a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's some fear of sacks really screwing them up and getting them behind, because Zen Mahalski was having some issues, and he wasn't the only one. Austin Seerveld was in there at one point, and blitzer went right past him. So Will Howard was having to run a little bit and get chased around. I don't know how many times he was actually sacked in this one. I think maybe just once, but they got after him pretty good at times, and then he has the ability to escape, and they were running him down a couple of times in this one. So I think there's just some concern, especially that last drive where they went 3 plays for -6 yards when they're trying to win the game, or trying to basically not give the ball back, and they go 3 and out, and that last play is like a swing screen to Travion Henderson that loses like 5 yards or whatever. That to me is just a complete we are not comfortable dropping back and throwing right now because of the pass protection.
Yeah, and it felt like Nebraska was sort of in that mode on that last drive as well, where they had the ball and they knew they needed to go down the field and score, and they're throwing like checkdowns. And it was like, Ohio State was sitting on the checkdowns because they knew they were going to be throwing these checkdowns, and it was like, I don't think that's going to work. And I think you've got to just, at some point, just figure it out is a lazy thing to say. And I don't want to just say figure it out, but you've got to have a solution. Like, you've got to get the ball out to your playmakers on the outside quickly. Do the stuff that teams do to Ohio State. Get the ball out in the second and a half to a guy on the outside. Let Jeremiah Smith do something with the ball in his hands. And if he gets tackled in space, if someone can tackle him one-on-one in space, like, God bless. That's fantastic. If you have Jeremiah Smith on your team and you target him four times, that is not a good game plan. I don't care how many snaps you have. If you have Jeremiah Smith on your team and you target him 4 times in a game, that is a bad game plan. You should try again. Yeah,
and that goes just back to the lack of first downs and all of the three and outs.
You can throw them the ball on the first set of downs in a drive. That's my. How many times did he get thrown the ball in the second half? Because I know they threw the ball 3-ish times in the first half. I mean, it.
Yeah, I can't. It won't separate by half.
Okay.
I know they threw the ball 8 times in the. No, not 8 times. This is a great show.
Hurry up and send me the final book, Ohio State SID team.
But yeah, I'm with you. That should be a career low in targets as he extends his Ohio State record, 7 games in a row with a touchdown catch.
You threw him the ball 4 times and he scored a touchdown. Like, I don't want to oversimplify things, but he seems to catch times on a somewhat regular basis.
I will say, Tom, and he got a 60-yarder and then 2 5-yarders. I mean,
yeah. And Jordan Kaplish has my advice to Tom: don't watch a TV copy. It's not any better.
I heard Gus Johnson did not have a good day today.
I had people texting me that Joel Klatt did not have a good game today. Jeremiah Smith, 3 catches for 70 yards, on 4 targets, 1 touchdown, tied Chris Carter's freshman touchdown record with 8. So it is October, and he has already tied the Ohio State true freshman touchdown receiving record.
And there you see he's 6 away on the 41 receptions from Chris Carter.
Yeah, past David Boston today, who had a pretty darn good freshman year, and that was a freshman year that went all the way into January.
Yeah,
Jeremiah Smith, 8 tied with Chris Carter, now ahead of David Boston. I mean, pretty good is what I would say.
Well, I mean, we predicted this. Yeah, we all said he was going to break all of the records. I do think we talked about. We did the show at one point of the summer. We talked about it, and I remember Nebraska? Saying like by Penn State, like he would have some of these records. So. Kevin, you run the archives, right? If you could go back, just do a Control F.
Okay, and we're getting
Jeremiah Smith.
We're getting some Control Fs in the chat as well. I think there's a lot of different ways we could go with this.
You won a game in the fourth quarter.
They won a game in the fourth quarter.
You shouldn't have been in that situation.
You should not have been in that situation. It was a little bit to me like the Penn State game 2 years ago, where you're sitting there and it was, I think that one they were down by a few, and I remember C.J. Stroud taking a picture of C.J. Stroud kind of walking out there like a wide shot with the fans behind him, and everyone's going nuts, and it's 7 minutes left, and it's like, well, this is going to be a defining quarter of football one way or the other. And that was the same thing, because this is going to be one that no one's happy about.
Right.
And it doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't count as a good win because it was a bad win, and it was terrible, and it doesn't count. If they had lost, if they had not gone down the field and driven down the field and gotten the touchdown in that crucial moment, oh boy, would they be in a much worse situation. And if the defense hadn't gotten some very, very important stops in crucial situations where there's been a lot of griping and the team doesn't force punts, the team doesn't force interceptions in big games and in fourth quarters, and the last two drives, Nebraska got the ball with 6:04 left after Ohio State took the lead. Nebraska had two more drives, 3 plays, -2 yards, and a punt, 4 plays, 13 yards, and an interception. I mean, that's. I recognize that the first 50 minutes of this game made everyone extremely mad. The offense got a drive when it needed it. The defense got 2 drives when they needed it. And the offense had a bad drive in the middle, all that stipulated. I think there needs to be take a brief moment from your rage to recognize that, hey, that was a pretty big drive for the offense. That was a couple pretty big drives for the defense. Yeah,
they stepped up when they needed to. There's proof of concept that they can do it. So that's good. I'll throw some numbers out to you, Tom. So 1 first down conversion for Ohio State, which is the lowest. The last time they had just 1 first down conversion, third down and conversion in a game. I'm sorry. Don't look.
No, I didn't see it. The last time they had 1 third down conversion in a game, when I think terrible football, I immediately think 2011 Illinois. But I'm sure it's more recent than that.
It's more recent than that, Tom, and it was
2015 Michigan State?
2019 Miami of Ohio, and Ohio State won 76-5. They were 1 of 5.
I was going to say, that's a different kind of bad
Also, so this is they won a game with 285 yards of total offense. Mm-hmm. That's the lowest number since
285 yards of total offense.
The lowest number in a win since there was
they had. I keep thinking the Tulsa game, but they ran for
a different weather
many.
game.
Was it the Illinois game in 2017?
The Northwestern game. You were there.
Oh, the Northwestern game. Yes, at Northwestern.
A non-hurricane forced win game would it would be the 2000 and.
Boy,
I remembered it, but
the audience is very angry. The good thing is we're bringing back past memories that are happy memories.
I completely understand the anger is, well, I mean, I'd say justified. You win a game. It's not what you expected. It's not. I wonder how many of these people lived. Anybody lived. Like, do you remember 2002? And I'm not trying to sugarcoat any of this, because you were favored by 25.5. Mm-hmm. You lose to a team, or you beat a team that lost by 49 earlier. We said last week, don't worry about that game that's just going to upset you because you're never going to reach that game. But you should never be trailing in the fourth quarter of this game against this team, a team that had scored 21 total points in the previous 2 weeks, had shown no semblance of any kind of offensive output that would scare anybody. And not that I don't think they scared Ohio State, because they held up pretty well, aside from 1 or 2 drives, which is how it kind of always goes. Mm-hmm. So there's, to me, through all of this, the biggest concern is still the running game and the offensive line.
Right. I think for sure. I know there's a lot of people that are worried about the defense, and that's lingering a little bit from the previous game. I think there were different problems on the defense today than you probably saw at Oregon. Oregon was just a couple big plays, really. And
Davis and Igbinosun needs to stop.
Davis and Igbinosun had a different kind of terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I think the BIA thing needs to get put on the shelf for a little while, unless they're going to change what the acronym is, what the letters stand for. I think that needs to get put on the shelf a little bit, because it is not looking great in a lot of spaces. Can we talk for a moment? Let's I'm the optimist on the show, as we've all known for years. Can we talk for a moment about Caleb Downs? Because from where I was, and again, I don't always have a great view of the game, but from where I was, it looked like he pulled their bacon out of the fire a couple times.
He had a couple of touchdown saving tackles. That there was one point, sorry to the Shaw family, but there was one where he's one-on-one. If he misses the tackle, it's a touchdown. And he makes a tackle. I'm like, can you imagine Bryson Shaw being in that situation? Yes, you could, because you saw it a few years back.
Yeah.
And that tackle was not made. And so it's very, very comforting for Ohio State to have that guy back there. The secondary as a whole, and the safety situation, let's talk about that, because they did something that we had not prepared for, which was you have who's replacing Lathan Ransom? Well, it depends if it's a passing down or a running down, because in the base defense, it was Jalen McLean coming in, and they play 4-3. And the nickel, it would be Jordan Hancock and Jermaine Matthews going in, or Lorenzo Styles going in, and Jordan Hancock would play safety. It was interesting as they're all kind of waiting to go start. You're like, oh, are the Styles brothers going to be the first brothers to start at Ohio State since the Bourne brothers? It's like they're out there in the know because it was a heavier set on offense, so they sent the linebacker and they sent Jalen McLean out there who had some good moments, but also I think he was involved in the 38-yard scramble where he kind of vacated the middle maybe.
Well, yeah, he's a true freshman. That's what's going to happen when you put a true freshman in that. And if it is not literally Caleb Downs, if you put a true freshman safety out there, that's what's going to happen. And Caleb Downs last year as a true freshman at Alabama, it probably had a few of those moments, but not very many.
Yeah.
It was, I think that was some very interesting sort of creative approach to that, because you have a bunch of possible solutions. We talked about all the different possible permutations of the safety lineups that they could go with. I just was not expecting them to choose all of the above.
Let's just order the entire thing. Give us the entire menu.
While we're talking about linebackers, I don't know if this got discussed during the post game, but the targeting penalty on Arvell Reese, Ryan Day was going nuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
we were right
nuts.
there too.
And I have a photo that will illustrate the point.
Yeah.
That we can get to later. Oh, there it is right now. Yeah, Ryan Day. When they ask if Pepsi is okay, .jpg. He was not happy, and I have probably 17 others of him yelling at different people, and then did he get a flag?
Yeah.
Was it on him or was it a sideline thing?
I don't know that it may have been the sideline, because he definitely got a flag.
The linesman who was right next, the linesman who was right there threw the flag, and I thought, boy, you cannot get a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like it was a 30-yard penalty. So, but the replay showed shoulder to shoulder to me. But
Todrick says, thanks for the calm, measured breakdown. When my breakdown is anything but calm or measured. Yeah, I think you've got people who are coming off of the Oregon game, which was a loss, so therefore everyone freaked out. And after the Oregon game, I think we said, you went across the country, you played one of the best teams in the country, currently number one, currently thumping Illinois, and you lost by 1 point on a close, some close calls at the end of the game and all that kind of stuff. That game didn't necessarily give me concerns. I think this one, where you have you're walking away with a win, but boy, now you lost that Mahalski potentially, we don't know, potentially long term. I don't know that the team or the performance necessarily makes me think this team is doomed. There's no possible way. I think just losing offensive linemen the way they have, that's something that you can't keep losing those guys. They're not incredibly deep there. Thank goodness they brought in Seth McLaughlin this year, because otherwise you'd be real short. You'd have Carson Hinsman obviously is not in the mix there necessarily to be, the next guard in or whatever. So, they brought guys in the portal, and they have gotten good development on some of the guys they brought in the portal. And so Josh Simmons has made huge strides. But now you've lost a couple tackles, and now you've got Donovan Jackson going out to tackle. How is he going to do? I don't know. I've never seen Donovan Jackson play tackle. So, and now you got to do it on the road against Penn State, who has a pretty decent pass rush. That, buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. You might have to move the pocket, but then also you might be moving it into an attacking defense that is waiting for you to roll left, roll right more than left.
Yeah.
But I think the lineup that they'll put out next week will be more talented.
Yeah.
In terms of the offensive line, but
yeah,
as you said, we have no idea how Donovan Jackson is as a tackle. I would assume he would be better than Zen Michalski, but I'm certainly not expecting Josh Simmons.
No.
Maybe Josh Simmons from last year, but not even then.
And Luke Montgomery is probably not going to be as good as Donovan Jackson at left guard. So you're probably, are you going from I haven't watched this game in any kind of way to evaluate the offensive line. So I'm just going to throw out letters here for illustrative purposes. Are you going from a C- left tackle and a B+ left guard to a C+ left tackle and a C+ left guard? I mean, and if you are, is that better or worse?
Well, I think they're going to go back to Austin Searveld at left guard because he started 2 games there while Donovan Jackson was out.
Yeah.
Now that they've got some time to get him back to the left side.
I guess you spend the week in practice and he just hasn't practiced on the left side in a while. Yeah, that's an interesting suggestion.
He practiced there a bunch in fall camp, which is why he was able to do it in the games. But right now it's all hands on deck.
Yeah.
And whether you're right-handed or left-handed, they need you there. So this is more of a Brian Day said they knew that this was going to be what they did if something happened this week in this game.
Yeah.
So that was their contingency. Now it's the longer term contingency that they have to deal with.
Yeah, and we sort of started talking about the Arvell Reese targeting call, and then got distracted by Brian Day's picture. That's real big. I got the one angle on the scoreboard at the stadium, which is not the same as the angles on TV. So the angles on TV are what they're actually making the decision based on. So I have no idea what the officials looked at. The one angle I saw on the scoreboard looked like shoulder to head. So I assume there must have been a different angle on TV. My wife, who never weighs in on such things, texted me to say she didn't think it was targeting. So, so I guess I'm curious if people who watch the game on TV. You guys were down on the field at that point, so you were at the mercy of the same one scoreboard replay that I saw.
I need to check with our buddy Marcus Hartman of Daily News, who's the arbiter of all things targeting. But to me, that did not look like targeting. But again, I will see stuff that looks like targeting and it's not. And I will see stuff that does not look like targeting and it is. So I think it's, did it look like a coin flip, heads or tails? That's to me, it's always a coin flip because how many times have we seen the rules guy in the broadcast have a different opinion? I don't think this is targeting, and then boom, targeting is upheld. Like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's.
Do you think Brian Day will get his apology? Like when we talked to him on Tuesday, did the Big Ten reach out and say that was a bad call?
What I think, that's it. What Kevin just said. If you submit it to the Big Ten, could you get it overturned? Because
it's been done before.
It has happened before. So, the Big Ten replay folks are the ones who called it. So now you're asking the same judge to overrule their. Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to be successful, but I guess theoretically it could happen. Otherwise, you've lost Arvell Reese for the first half of Penn State. That is a low key, significant blow for this team because. That's a Penn State team that is probably going to be that's a big game for the linebackers. It is a very run-heavy and tight end pass-happy offense for Penn State. It's a lot of Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, and it's a lot of Tyler Warren in that pass game. That's going to be a big game for the linebackers. You want to have all hands on deck, and unless something changes, they are not going to have all hands on deck.
Yeah, and Jordan Hancock is a very good run defender at nickel, but now he's at safety. So do you trust Lorenzo Styles as much as you do Jordan Hancock? I don't think there's enough evidence there yet for the coaches to be able to do that. So now you're talking C.J. Hicks, Gabe Powers as being that third linebacker in there, and how do they feel about that? So it's not a great situation for Ohio State's defense to be going in to, like you said, a place where they will throw the ball to Tyler Warren 20 times.
Yeah, he had 17 receptions, I think, last game.
So
Chris says, according to the referee in the booth, he said it was targeting because it's any hit towards the head or neck area, whether it's helmet or forearm. So because there were people saying that it was the how forearm, the helmet. I mean, we'll see. Again, this is one of the things I would absolutely love to go back and watch this on the TV and see the angles that they made that decision based on. That was not a particularly well officiated game.
There's weird spots as well.
And the first offensive.
Both ways. Yeah.
The first, you remember the season that Major League Baseball told the umpires to really make an emphasis on calling balks, and all of a sudden every team was setting like balk rules. There must have been a memo about offensive pass interference because that
was a bad one.
The first one against Nebraska was a terrible call.
Yeah.
That was the second one towards the end of the game. That one was legit. The first one was a terrible call. There was, I didn't understand, and this is one that they didn't really explain, and I'm trying to, discern this from a sun-glared video board. The one where it was not a catch, the 2019 Fiesta Bowl Memorial, he caught it, took 2 steps, and fumbled, and then it was, but it wasn't a catch. And then they overturned it and said it was a catch. He fumbled it, but I think they gave him the yardage, but then the fumble didn't count. Was he marked down? I was real confused on that one because it was not well explained on the field.
No, and at that point, I'm trying to walk to the other side of the field to get ready for the move down the field because, I was too busy looking at the hit, and then Ross Bjork is right in front of me as well with Ryan Day. He's like the mediator between the two of us, and he's signaling it's a catch. I'm like, catch, fumble, and then of course none of it matters because you've got the targeting in there, and I'll be interested to see what the Big Ten says. They may very well uphold it because, like I said, nobody really knows what targeting is, so you can't say it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
You can't prove a negative.
Yeah, that's. I suppose that's possibly true.
You can't prove it wasn't. Apparently, if nobody knows.
We talked about Jordan Hancock. We talked about the run game struggles. We talked about the Zen Mahalski injury. We have not talked at all about Matt Rule's post-game press conference. Okay. Matt Rule is. You got to see a little bit of it earlier. I have it up on our YouTube channel. When the post-game show is done, not now, when the post-game show is done, go watch that. It is one of the best press conferences I've been through. He just lost this gut-wrenching game, and he's up there and he's saying, he's not saying moral victory. He's not saying, but he's talking about, hey, that is a program that for the last time they had a bowl game was 2016. And that is a team that is covered like the Ohio State team is covered. That was as full a visiting post-game room as I've ever seen over there outside of an Ohio State Michigan. The Nebraska beat is the only one that's even close to the Ohio State beat in terms of number of people, which is a good proxy for amount of interest in the team. So you have this program that's been 8 years, in the wilderness, not even going to bowl games. Ohio State's bowl eligible, and we made one joking reference to it earlier in the game.
No balloons.
The folks in Lincoln, Nebraska will release a whole separate bunch of balloons when they finally get bowl eligible. And they will, because they just need one more win, and they've got winnable games on the schedule. But he is just so impressive. He doesn't do the players have to play better thing that he did. Watch the Matt Rule press conference and watch any Lincoln Riley little piss baby, what little boy nonsense that he does every time he loses. It's not my fault. Matt Rule is a fantastic coach. He is a great. That was a great press conference. You can see why guys want to play for him. And it's like the Kurt Signetti thing at Big Ten Media Days. It's just kind of like you listen to someone talk and it's just like, it's going to work for this guy at some point. I know it didn't work at all last week. It didn't come out their way today, but man, it was a really, really good. He's just a very, very good communicator. Very honest, straightforward guy, but who has the pedigree and has the background to back it up. And it's not just like the happy scrappy hero pup guy who just has nothing other than good vibes. Yeah,
and we'll get to questions here in a second. I'll just say this because I know maybe we're saying, "Oh, you won, be happy." You've got an offensive line in flux right now. Can't run the ball.
Yeah.
You're heading into a place that is very tough to play against a good defense that will be running the ball and throwing to places that are difficult for an Ohio State defense to defend, especially when you're missing one of your top 3 linebackers for the first half, perhaps in Arvell Reese. You could you're going to be outmanned or undermanned in that first half. If Penn State gets out to any kind of a momentum type of lead, whether that's 7 or 14, something like that, that's a tough place to come back from. Now, we've seen it happen.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But it doesn't mean it's easy.
Well, you've got a veteran team. You've got all your guys back from last year. You've got all these guys came back to win a championship. What do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah,
I mean, you've been here for 4 years. You've currently reached 0 of your stated goals. 0. Yeah, it might be tough. Guess what? It's not always easy.
Well,
welcome to life.
Yeah.
I have bad news about what life is like after college if you think this is tough.
Right. And I go back to Taylor Decker at the Michigan game, after the Michigan game, when they went in there after the loss to Michigan State. And he said, if we didn't come in and win this game, all of the culture talk basically would have been crap.
Yeah.
So if you're going to talk about it, you got to be about it. Let's take some questions and get the temperature of the people.
107 degrees.
From KJ, place blame at the top. They had an extra week to prepare. It sure didn't look like they had an extra week to prepare because the offensive game plan, I'll give credit to the defense. I thought they played well. Dylan Riola escaped a few times. Credit to him.
Yeah.
That stopped in the second half. So they contained him much better. But this offensive game plan was very much lacking. How much of that is because of Josh Simmons? I mean, if everything collapses, or not everything, if the running game collapses because of your left tackle, you've got bigger issues.
Right. And yeah, you can scheme around one guy.
Yeah.
So it's not just a one guy problem at that point. I mean, I'm just going to read the second half possessions for Ohio State. This is on offense.
Yeah.
This is the side of the ball that everyone's happy with before today. 3 plays, 7 yards punt. 1 play, 0 yards interception. That was a poor choice. 3 plays, 8 yards punt. 3 plays, 8 yards punt. 8 plays, 75 yards touchdown. That's the one they absolutely had to have, and they had it. 3 plays minus 6 yards punt, and then the kneel downs at the end of the game. That's the offense in the second half. That is an offense that had a pretty good first half once they got going, and then just slammed head first into a wall.
Yeah, let's get to the super chat quickly, Tom.
Super chat from Jordan Kapler. Buckeye Huddle, sponsored by the Lincoln Riley and Hugh Freeze fan club, owned and operated by Tom Orr. Yeah, I mean they are 2 football coaches. Yes.
Hey,
you
don't want to be yelled at. Don't screw up.
Yeah, there's the third quarter drive charts for Ohio State. I mean, that's
granted, getting stopped at the 1. That's always going to be starting at the 1 yard line. It's always going to be difficult. But they kind of moved it out. They just you can't get that first down. And throwing as often as they did on short yardage situations on third and short tells you exactly how they feel about the running game right now.
You can talk about toughness and fight and all that kind of stuff. If it's 4th and 1 and you're throwing it out to Emeka Buka, I mean, it wasn't like it was just that they didn't. It wasn't that they just did it the one time. It was because they got stuffed on 4th and 1 the previous time. The Nebraska second half. I mean, they had the first drive of the second half, 12 plays, 58 yards, got to kick the field goal. After that, last 5 drives of the game. This is the portion of the game that everyone's been griping about. Jim Knowles' defense can't get off the field. They can't force punts. They can't force turnovers. They can't do anything. They got handed the ball at the Ohio State 7. This is where Nebraska has kicked 3 field goals. It's 14-9 at that point, and Nebraska gets the ball at the Ohio State 7-yard line, and Ohio State holds them on downs. That goal line stand. I thought this is the moment that the game completely turns. What an incredible stand. I was wrong. However, next drive, 4 plays, 3 yards, punt, another stop. You've now given them. They've now had the ball handed to them in Ohio State territory twice. Ohio State 7 and Ohio State 42, and Nebraska's come away with 0 points. 8 plays, 9 yards. They had the 9-play, 74-yard drive for the touchdown. And after that, when Ohio State answered with the touchdown again, and it was like, well, who's going to break serve here? Ohio State, 3 plays, -2 yards in the punt, and then 4 plays, 13 yards in the interception. The game's over. I know this doesn't count because it's not
right.
Because it's not a game that counts. But that was a defense that did its job.
Yeah, I would agree. I would also agree with Ethan Maxfield comment there that they'll get 5 yards on the tush push. They won't necessarily get 5 every time, but they were getting some good yards on the sneaks, which is I don't know why they went away from that. But
Yep.
Jordan B, I'll go ahead and read this one. No, you know what? I don't want to.
It's probably this feels like a Jordan Kapler burner. One of the smartest things Tom said is that losing Simmons was more consequential than losing to Oregon. Yeah, I mean that's going to have
it's
a much
simple
bigger
point. I mean, that's not everybody knows this.
It's going to have a much bigger long-term impact than a 1-point road loss. I mean, that's just
yes.
Yeah.
David Greenshield, was it illegal to try a jet sweep with the Mecca or Jeremiah Smith? And I'm not disagreeing with that one at all. You got to try something, and it just didn't seem like a very inventive or this was not the running game that we had come to expect by this point in the season. It's been struggled 2 weeks in a row. But I know they want to get Quinshon Judkins going, and they're trying. He's had 2 back-to-back clunkers, and he did say he was kind of impacted by the hand a little bit 2 weeks ago. I think he's okay now, but yeah, trying to get started. And I'm not expecting the running game to be much better next week.
No, I don't think
unless
so.
they hit because there's no home runs. They need the home run to glossy up the numbers.
I think back to the 2020 Ohio State-Penn State game, and if I'm remembering this correctly, there was a early end around to Garrett Wilson for like a long play in that game that really kind of got them going at the start of the game. I think you've got to get. I mean, there's Jeremiah Smith, triple threat, and he is. You cannot target him 4 times. You have to get him the ball more times. I mean, that was an Urban Meyer thing. Like, you make a list of who do we have to get the ball to. Jeremiah Smith is at the top of the list every week. Jeremiah Smith should be at the top of the list. And if you don't feel like you can throw the ball to him downfield. Okay, throw it to him closer to the line of scrimmage. Okay, you don't feel you can do that for whatever reason. You've seen him run the ball. He took a handoff and scored a touchdown against Michigan State. You got to just, even if it's the same play you've already put on film, like, run it again. Like, you got to get him the ball because you've got a bunch of talented playmakers. We have seen some of them have good games, some of them have bad games. I have yet to see Jeremiah Smith have a game where he doesn't do one thing that you go, holy smokes, that was incredible.
Well, and the thing is, the only time he's held in check, it's not the defense, it's the lack of targets, that or incompletions, not being accurate and getting the ball near him. Wingman Ted, question for Bill Carrillo with regards to the targeting call. Why was Nebraska able to get the 15 yards from the spot of the fumble that they did not recover and not from the line of scrimmage? Is it a spot of because the spot of the fumble is also the spot of the targeting?
Yeah,
so,
but
it's normally just 15 from the line of scrimmage.
Could he have been down? Could he have
they said he fumbled, right?
No, they said it was a completed pass. So could he have been down? They didn't explain it. So
and I was already on the other side of the field. Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they explained it on TV. Whether they said it was a fumble or not.
Yeah. There's Jordan Hancock celebrating his game sealing interception there. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I would love to know the answer to that because that was one where I was on the field and it was like. It was real delayed in terms of like when they actually put here's where the ball is and here's it down in distance on the scoreboard. So I didn't have, but they moved it a bunch down the field. So it was very clearly not just here's the 15 yards. So they did give him the thing, but there was no explanation given as to why. So maybe that's something we can get some clarification on.
I was just trying to read the entire play from the stat broadcast play-by-play, and it's both complete and incomplete. So the play was under review, so they ruled it. I don't even know where to begin with this entire mess. It ends up being no play. So I know, great show, guys. As I'm trying to read through, because it's very convoluted. I mean, we're all still trying to figure out, hey, what exactly happened? I don't know.
Yeah. And it was okay, so they said fumble on the field. Okay, so I don't know. Yeah.
Well, because there was a ref saying incomplete as well.
Right.
That's the ref that I saw.
They said incomplete,
and then
they said complete, but I felt there was a fumble, but I didn't get to see a replay on the field. Yeah,
because I know one of the reasons, I assume the reason the replay took so long is because they were first looking to see targeting and then also catch or not.
Yeah.
And
CC Ogden has a in the second one. the pass was complete, therefore the targeting is marked on the completion, and then he followed up with, it wasn't no play, complete pass through.
All right.
Yes,
Yeah. So, all right.
because it went from the 12 to the 46. So it was a 19-yard completion, and then a 35,
Yeah, and then 15
and no 15 from Day. So that would have just been a sideline warning.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though he was very much off the sideline.
He was. Yeah.
He was out there. He was out. He was out there talking with the ref.
Yes.
And then when that call came in, he was still then he got louder, and then it was like sideline warning. It's like, I've been here the entire time talking with you, and now you're throwing a sideline warning.
Yeah. All right. So we want to get anything. We talked about 220 already, didn't we? They didn't get there.
They did not get there.
Yeah,
they barely got to 220 overall, Tom.
Yeah, boy,
so,
it was
nice job.
221 in passing. So.
If anybody wants to ask about my bold predictions,
no one wants to talk. Tony, there's lots of stuff that people want to talk about.
All right. Any other questions that we can get to then?
Wingman Ted says, I'm really concerned about Chip continually not adjusting away from his tendencies to try to throw bubble screens in the backfield when the run game's struggling. That's it. Like I said earlier, if you're running for 2 yards a pop and you're throwing for 17 yards a pop, it feels to me like you should be doing one of those things more often than the other. Like, I get it that that's what you want to do, but take what's working until it stops working.
Well, you threw the ball deep twice.
And they went for a touchdown and also a touchdown.
100 yards total. So maybe dial that up more. Yeah. And if you're saying, well, the safeties are back, so we can't, then it's like, well, why are you only rushing for 2 yards a carry?
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
Right.
It can't both be happening. But if the offensive line is struggling, it kind of can, as long as those guys are getting beat. But, if you're 2 for 2 on deep balls.
Yeah. Well, and you don't have to just heave it deep every time. Get it out and get it in your playmaker's hands. Get it into Emeka Buku's hands. Get it into Jeremiah Smith's hands. Get it into Carnell Tate's hands. Carnell Tate had a heck of a game.
Yeah, he did.
Carnell
First
Tate
100-yard game, I believe.
Yeah, fantastic game. It feels like there are solutions there, and they just weren't being taken. Again, I would love to get to watch the game on a TV copy. And Hollywood Hagar says, I don't feel good about the rest of the season, but I know teams have ups and downs. Let's hope it's one of the downs that can reignite this team.
Do you remember watching Bowling Green light up Penn State for half of football?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean, everybody. Do you remember Oregon being in a dogfight to Idaho, and then also Boise State? So this stuff happens. It's just in the moment.
Yeah,
it's terrible. But if you beat Penn State by 17 points next week, nobody's going to ever remember this game.
Right.
But if you lose, it's like, well, the signs were there. Yeah, the signs are there.
Do you remember 2014? The next to last home game of the season was Indiana, and this is not Curt Cignetti, Indiana.
Yeah.
And Ohio State was losing to Indiana in the second half, third quarter, I think, late third quarter, early fourth quarter. Ohio State was losing at home to Indiana, and then 4 games later was the national champion. Like, it happens. If you were old enough to remember 2002, sometimes games are close against inferior opponents during championship seasons.
All the time.
Georgia has had close games against crappy teams a bunch, and they've had the last 2 games in Lexington, Kentucky have both been very close for Georgia, like real close and gross late into the fourth quarter. It happens. Bad teams have close games, and good teams have close games. So you're going to have close games. That's sort of my big takeaway. You're going to have close games. It's just a matter of, okay, how do they respond now? And they got to figure it out before next week, because they had plenty of time to kind of go through and mess around. Oh, try this, we'll do that. That's fine. That's done.
This was not a good response to the Oregon loss.
No. And it was not a good response to the Oregon loss, and you potentially have more complications now with the Mahalski injury.
Yeah, for sure.
Don Belt said, why didn't they put a tight end over the left tackle for help? They did sometimes.
Well, I know also there were times where they Donovan Jackson would they'd be organized in a way that there would be help, and it wouldn't just be him on an island. But yeah, you kind of have to change up what you do. But if it's getting to be that bad, then you should remember the Isaiah Prince thing, like help this poor man out against Penn State. Where you're just hanging them out to dry, and that becomes like coaching malpractice. Yes, players got to make the plays. If your player can't, then either remove him.
Yeah.
Or put two players there to help him out. And if a tight end is no longer in the route, newsflash, they're not going to get the pass generally even running the route. Now they may be taking a defender with them, and so now that maybe things are clogged up in the secondary a little bit, but it's better to have an opportunity to throw the ball by having more time to actually get rid of the ball because you're helping somebody out. But this is not a great audition for Zed Michalski, even because I do wonder, were they getting close to yanking him? He had played long enough. I figured they were just going to continue to let him go through this, but would they have explored the possibility this week? And it's like, well, no, because you don't want to do that for Penn State. It's like, well, by the end of the third quarter next week, you might have been going with Donovan Jackson anyway.
Right. Yeah. It didn't feel like they had a great answer there, and I don't know that you're going to have a great answer there now. Sometimes you just got to kind of deal. It's not always going to be perfect. You're not. Sometimes you got to have Darryl Baldwin playing tackle for you, and you can win a national championship anyway. I mean,
and to that point, talking on Twitter, it's like, they've had poor recruiting on the offensive line, and it's like, Urban 2 years started a different defensive lineman at right tackle. One was Darryl Baldwin, the other was Chase Ferris, and they won it with Darryl Baldwin. They did not win it with Chase Ferris, and so it's like there aren't enough great offensive linemen to field 6 or 7. And once you start getting out of your top 4 or 5, then things can get a little hinky, and you're seeing that, and you may continue to see that. That's why I think Donovan Jackson at left tackle at least makes them the more talented lineup than this week. Now, is it overall better? I don't know. I know it's more talented.
Yeah. Ethan Maxfield I don't know where he gets off with this optimism, but he says the lack of offensive bye week is troubling, but 13 tackles for loss and 2 interceptions is pretty good. Nebraska has a good offensive line. It wasn't a great day for the defense, but it was a pretty good day for the defense, and the defense showed you some things that they had not shown you before. One of the things that Matt Rule mentioned is Larry Johnson, typically they just will rush 4. They brought some extra heat today, and it got home. They
also had at least one with 3 down linemen and brought about 6, and that ended up being a big play for Nebraska. But they did show some different things: 3 down, 4 down, 5 down. So that was, I think that's a positive thing that they can build on, because Tom, they might need the defense to win next week, and I don't mean to keep talking about next week, but that's. You're going to have to find ways to win. The fact that they were able to win a game in the fourth quarter, I don't care against who, just the fact that they put the plays together is a positive step that they can build on from here, because had they lost, what in the world do you do then?
Well, had they lost, you're getting ready to have some other conversations about
the playoffs are still there ahead of you, but it's like, but we just lost at home to Nebraska.
Right, and then you have to beat – then you get zero margin for error. You've got to beat Penn State. You've got to beat Purdue and Northwestern, You got to beat Indiana. You got to beat Michigan. And then you got to beat whoever potentially in the Big Ten championship game, or you don't, and you try and get in that large bid, but then you're playing probably a road game your first – I mean, so that has been avoided. You still do have a little bit of margin for error. If they lose to Penn State next week, they're probably still in the college football playoff, especially if they lose close. If they lose 17-14 or 24-20 or 31-27 or 31-20 even, like you're still probably in the college football playoff at that point. But you got to win out. The margin for error gets a little slimmer. They did not use any of their 9 lives today. So that, from their perspective, has to be a positive.
I will say, and I think I saw Terry Mitchell mentioned it in the chat about the fact that Ohio State got lucky that some of those deep shots from Dylan Raiola to open receivers were long off target. So, and I don't know if any of those drives, because I know there were 2 missed plays. I don't know if either of those ended up in a touchdown anyway.
One of them was
a third down, wasn't it?
One of them was a shot in the corner of the end zone that it was about that far off the receiver's fingertips. I got a picture of that I have not found on the hard drive yet, but it'll be in the photo gallery at some point. The other one was, it looked like there was just a mix-up, and the two defensive backs both went with the inside receiver, and there was someone wide open. I don't think they scored a touchdown on that drive, but yeah, it was not perfect by any means. I know we have
real quick, but those are the shots that Dylan Gabriel hit last week.
Right. Yeah.
And had Dylan Raiola hit them this week.
Yeah. You're having a different conversation. We have a graphic about Will Howard's performance today. We can get to that in a minute. Will Howard, again, it was a classic Will Howard performance. He ran a little bit, made some plays with his legs. He was very good and consistent, except for the one that you went, "Oh no, what are you doing?" And there was an interception that was just, I could see it coming.
I don't think he ever saw he saw a Mecca matched up with a slot guy, and he didn't see the corner that was matched up with the outside receiver. Never bothered running with the outside receiver. He just, because it was a pretty quick throw. So that one, right before his fumble, that he got hit from behind and he fumbled.
Yeah.
I was like, I was telling I'm not going to drop names, but just mentioned like, boy,
Kevin Noon.
It's like, is it about time for those one or two plays from Will Howard that we talk about?
That was a real ball security thing. Because that's another one where I've got a picture, and I looked, and I'm like, he's got it with one hand right there. There's a guy just to his left. Like, you should be feeling that guy right there. He is large, and he is running very fast at you. You should be feeling that guy.
But still, it's a good game.
Yeah, right. 13 for 16, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns.
9 of 9 in the first half.
9 of 9 in the first half. I mean, he's been exactly what they need him to be. And he was exactly what they needed him to be today. He did fine. If they had lost the game, it would not have been at all Will Howard's issue. Dylan Raiola looked a lot like a freshman quarterback, a talented freshman quarterback, 21 to 32, 152 yards, a lot of checkdowns, 5 yards an attempt. No touchdowns, but 9 rushes, 31 yards. That's out of his kind of typical game plan. A little like the C.J. Stroud 50-yard touchdown at Michigan State in 2020, where it was like,
he's a runner.
He's a runner. Well, no, not exactly, but you got to give him credit when the play was there. He made the play. You could tell he's going to be good in a year or two. He's not there yet, and it's a true freshman quarterback. That's what they do. Yeah.
So Will Howard 3 of 3 on the game-winning drive, and also 2 carries for 14 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He did what he needed to do on that drive.
Yep. Shuttle Joe says they won. That is all that matters. And in the big picture, yes. In the fact that they have to go to Penn State next week, less so. But they did what they needed to do to win the game on Saturday, and so that's credit to them. If they had not won the game, you would be in a much worse mood.
Yeah, every game is kind of its own universe, and then the next game is a different universe. But you're still right now where Ohio State is with the offensive line. You're still carrying some things with you to the next game that are going to cause problems in the next universe as well.
Speaking of things that may cause problems in the next game, Ohio State needs to have a kicker that can make a 42-yard field goal.
They trust him, right? They said they trust Jaden Fielding. Now, it's not often easy to tell if a kick is good or not from the press box because you're looking at it.
That wasn't close. I'm
getting there, Tom. Wasn't too long before you could see, oh, no. This is way wide right. It was opposite direction, but not unlike Mike Nugent 2001-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Houston 2001-ish, kicking it into the tunnel, basically.
Yeah, that's an area where inconsistency is kind of a thing. Hashtag college kickers is a thing for a reason. But if you're not sure you got someone, you got to be more active in the portal. They were plenty active in the portal. It's just, it has come up a couple times. If you're missing 55-yarders, that's one thing. If you're missing a 42-yarder on a day when there's a little bit of a wind, but not much. You can't be doing that in close games.
I wonder, is the wind the reason that Nebraska's kicker, who came in 4 of 9 this season, and what it hit all three of his, a 39-yarder, a 54-yarder, and a 47-yarder. Like that dude, give him the Groza right now.
It was like Will Ferrell in Old School, where he just like goes off on this thing and like this rant, and he's like, I blacked out. Like if you ask him like, how did you play today? I don't know that he'd give you the answer. We talked about that a bunch. He was 4 for 9 on field goals coming in today. That's just, and I picked 34-6 as the score. And afterwards I was like, that was stupid. There's no way they're kicking 2 field goals, and they kicked 3 field goals, and they were 3 for 3. That's the kind of thing that you have to have reliable special teams if you're going to win these close games. There will be a game that comes down to a field goal for one team or another at some point during this run. Whoever wins the national championship, you're going to have a game that comes down to a field goal one way or the other. You got to have a field goal kicker you can trust in that moment. And I don't, it's very easy to say, yeah, we trust him, no problem. I don't, we'll see how they handle those situations moving forward.
Yeah, ideally you don't want to kick a field goal unless you have to, and they're probably going to remain aggressive on 4th downs after seeing this today.
On a positive side, Joe McGuire averaged 47 yards per punt.
He had a good game.
Punts. He had a very good game.
He got some good rolls, got some inside the 20, so he did a good job, and they needed him.
Yep. Let's see. Do we want to run here? I know we have a Big Ten standings graphic that we can get to real quick, just to kind of, because I think we can sort of safely, Oregon winning at the half over Illinois 35-3. There was this scenario where Oregon and Ohio State and Penn State and Indiana and Illinois all finished with 1 loss. Okay, so that we can probably safely take that one off the board. Ohio State still, it was a deeply frustrating game, I'm sure, but Ohio State controls its own destiny. And this is next week. Oregon is 5-0. They play at Michigan. They're probably going to be winning again. They're Indiana at Michigan State. They should win that game probably. Ohio State at Penn State. If Ohio State wins, they continue to control their own destiny. If they lose, well, then you're having a different conversation for the first college football playoff ranking show.
Yeah, and if they lose, then at least you'll have the opportunity to play Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people are looking forward to that opportunity right now.
Well,
buckle up for that
Yeah.
one. And Curtis Work should be fine. And if he's not, Taven Jackson seems to be pretty good as well.
Yep.
Have we defeated the listeners?
Yep.
Or
Do we want to go through? You want to do like a picture or two?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's throw up a picture or two if we want to do that, and then we can wrap it up. There we go. Yeah, there's the team taking the field before the game. I was very disappointed to figure out that my lens was just slightly not wide enough to get both of the pyro things. Did like that shot up above the tunnel. There's Carnell Tate. This is I actually have a whole sequence of that. You can zip through those if you want to do them. But that was his Carnell Tate's long touchdown reception there.
Good job by him to hold on because that got caught up in the wind a little bit, and I thought it was going to get broken up, and he was able to hold on to it from the first guy and the second guy, and then also when he hit the ground.
Yep. Yeah, that was
the first touchdown since the season opener, I believe.
Yeah, he's had a kind of quiet year, and it's not because of he had a little bit of an injury at one point, but he is. I think he's someone that gets sort of forgotten and lost because everyone talks about Jeremiah Smith, and then you talk about Emeka Egbuka because it's like, well, people forget about it. People sleep on Emeka Egbuka, and then it's like, well, they don't actually sleep on Emeka Egbuka because everyone talks about how you sleep on Emeka Egbuka. You're really sleeping on Carnell Tate.
And Tate, first 4 games, averaging about 50, 55 yards per game, which is decent enough, but has been quiet until this one, his first career 100-yard game. I'm going to confirm that. Yes. Boy. Career high 79 last year at Purdue, which sort of counts. Mm-hmm. This one definitely counts more. Mm-hmm. So,
all right.
Is that it? Are we good? All right. Before we go, if you could hit the thumbs up if you have not already, we'd appreciate that. I know most of you have, and we do thank you for that. Please sign up. Hit the thumbs up to be notified, or hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done that. And, of course, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a premium member. First month, only $4.99. Here, we had a bunch of stuff back there on the paywall on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus this past week. Recruiting stuff, team stuff that you can go ahead and check out. It's still there for you, and there'll be more coming next week. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.